You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's Turn After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Turn After Show.
Hello. We're back. Hey, guys. This is such a great opening. I love this song.
It's like
growing on me.
I really like the shadow puppet effects. I really do. I love that style.
It almost reminds me very like True Detective almost.
Oh,
like
Reigns
the
of
song.
Castamere.
It's Castamere.
I'm telling you, listen to Reigns of Castamere.
Hey guys, welcome back to our episode of Turns, episode 2, Who by Fire. And joining, I'm Kristen Carroll. You can just call me General Kristen. And with me tonight, I have Captain Selena.
No, I'm actually
You're
Lieutenant Megan.
Lieutenant
But
Megan.
we do have Captain Joyce.
Captain Joyce.
Captain Joyce.
Captain Joyce in the flesh, reincarnated.
Lives. And then
live.
we also have Major Chance joining us once again.
Major chance.
So, very exciting. Great to be back for this one, because I think a lot of us going into it, had reservations a little bit, but enjoyed it. And we're kind of looking to see where it went. And I feel like it really took it to a different level in this episode. We're learning a lot more.
I watched your guys' podcast from last week, and you were right. It wasn't so suspenseful in terms of it being a pilot. So that I felt the same way. I was like, well, it's kind of an introduction, which is exactly what we needed. But this episode definitely proved to be more eventful.
Yeah, they're racking up the suspense quite a bit already, just with the way the different characters are interacting and just the implications of what that'll bring. It's really cool.
I have to admit, I wasn't sold last time. I even told a lot of people I wasn't sold.
Dylan almost didn't do the show tonight. He was like,
it was tough.
I'm feeling it.
It was tough. But, I'm a trooper. I came in, I watched it, and this one actually is getting better.
And he even brought us a gift, so we allowed him to return.
Nah,
Like this really
I had
cool.
to buy my way in.
That's how we work. And Joyce will be official to our panel now.
Yes.
And we say hi to Ryan, who couldn't make it today. So.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Captain Ryan missed his ship.
But don't worry.
Actually, literally, he did. He was on Catalina Island. So he missed the boat.
Wow. He really
How fitting.
missed it up.
That is so fitting.
But Joyce will be joining us. Stephen Lemieux will not be for the future. So, best moments of the show. There were so many cool, kind of sexy things going on in this show.
Whoa.
What do you
You
think?
thought the dead body was sexy?
It was like Captain Joyce, pickled
He
water.
looked like Uncle Fester.
Yeah. I was trying to put my finger on it. You're
A pickled
absolutely
Uncle Fester.
Ew. So gross.
This is gross. I gotta go.
No, what was your favorite moment?
Personally, I love Caleb. Caleb Brewster is just awesome, and I hope, as we found out at the end, that Ben's going to have a little trouble with how they treated Simcoe. But, they're whining and dining him, and all of a sudden, Caleb's like, I just can't handle this, and he punches him.
That's
and I
awesome.
feel that's what most of us want to do to Simcoe. He's just creepy and annoying, and somebody, you don't really want around. What about you?
My favorite moment was probably just when Richard and Anna and Abe were all sitting down to talk to Rogers. Like, that conversation was like, I was like leaning in my chair a little bit. I'm like, ooh, what's going to happen next? And I really liked that conversation. And Rogers, despite being a mercenary and quote unquote, working for the bad guys, again, I don't want to say that the British are bad guys, because they're not. They're just doing their jobs.
I just think because they're kind of against what our main character is going for, that that's kind of a say that for
but
this
even
show.
though he's a mercenary, he was so funny, and you can tell that he's a rogue who obviously plays by his own rules, and I really liked that interaction.
I love his mannerisms. He's cool.
Yeah, and you never know what you're going to get from him. So I think that scene, any scene he's in, you never know what's going to happen, which is kind of cool to bring to the table.
Megan,
what about you guys?
as long as we're in America, they are the bad guys. So, future
I'm
reference.
just saying.
All right, continue.
My favorite moment was when Abe and his dad had a moment where it was just kind of like his dad was so relieved that he wasn't involved in the Captain Joyce killing. And coming from last episode at the end when he said that he was done helping him, that made me feel really bad for Abe because, you know, Abe is in this really weird place. He can't catch a break. He doesn't rely on his wife. His true love is not his wife, and his dad told him he was done with him. So to see his dad kind of come back from that, it made me feel better about, you know, who Abe could go to. But who knows what could happen with his dad and, you know, in the future.
And that was really tough too because like as soon basically as they reconciled, his dad basically said, "Oh yeah, and by the way, I sold out Anna."
She's on the list.
So
That's
like
true.
you get this moment of like, oh, I can breathe with a sigh of relief. These two have reconciled. You know, they've put the past behind them. And oh, now Anna's in trouble again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess that was a terrible turn.
It's got to be nice to.
Oh.
It's got to be nice to be married, though, that, you know, your father-in-law is kind of at least getting rid of the competition. I mean, she's married to him. They have a kid together. It's just,
True.
Except she's at home and doesn't know anything about anything going on.
Yeah.
Let's get into, let's start off with the opening.
Dylan,
Yeah, you
did you
skipped my favorite moment.
Sorry.
Jeez. Well, mine was actually the same one as yours, just this very particular line.
If you want to call that a lie.
I think that's a
really
lie.
hope that was improvised. It's just like,
If I were the other actors, I would have lost it.
Well, I
Okay,
like
that's it.
that,
Sorry,
you
it was
added
great.
that. No, that's good.
I laughed very hard.
So I was going with the transition. She said Mary, and I'm like, that's our first topic is Mary and Abe.
Oh,
Sorry about
she was
that.
trying to
I was
have a
trying to
nice
have a good
segue.
transition.
Oh, yeah,
good
I got
segue. So
My
let's
bad.
get into the opening with Mary and Abe, and I feel like I wonder if this is going to be a pattern for the show because last week they also started with Mary and Abe, and I feel like their conversation each time kind of mirrors what's going to happen later, and I feel like AMC kind of does that a little bit. You know, they do that with Walking Dead to an extent where whatever the opening is, sometimes the conversation kind of mirrors what happens later. But it's not the same creators, but it's the same network. Mary wakes him up because she's praying again. And, you know, I'm praying for us. And, you know, Abe's just kind of like, you know, it's going to be okay. Like, it's fine. And she's like, no, this plague is a sign. You know, all of our crops are basically gone, these maggots. I mean, this is bad. So here's somebody, you know, she's kind of God-fearing as it seems and believes in signs and, you know, really wants the family to grow. And then, of course, Abe is like, I got half the crops in the shed. We're cool. It's going to last us till winter. And then, of course,
like the
The
second
shed
he says
burns.
that,
Yeah.
the shed burns to the ground.
Until he can't catch a break.
I almost like I feel like if this was a cartoon or a comedy of some sort, like as soon as he pointed that out, like a bolt of lightning would have struck it.
what's the worst that could happen? You know, one of those
Mary
moments.
would probably say he got smited by God.
Probably like this is a punishment being brought down upon us.
That's what you get
going-
for being cocky.
Well, going from that, you know, the fact that Mary is so God-fearing and she's taking this, you know, with religion, and she's basically depending on that and telling Abe, like, this is all because of God, like, don't worry, or, you know, we're going to be okay, I'm praying to God, all this stuff. And Abe is the opposite. He's not in that mindset at all, so that totally mirrors, like, their disconnect and their difference. Because from the beginning, I've never seen them agree or just be one.
No, they've never embraced one
No,
another.
they've never have.
shown like she's clearly shown that she needs him and that she loves him and relies on him. But like anytime the two of them are interacting together, he will always gravitate towards their son. You know, who he clearly loves dearly, but that's not necessarily, you know, that affection isn't shown towards her as well.
Well, and exactly, as soon as they get done having their discussion, he's kind of awake, and you could tell he doesn't want to go back to bed and be woken up again. So he goes, you know, to Thomas, who's crying, and shows him his pirate treasure. A little
Yeah.
change under there, and that's a really cute moment.
You know, that's how people's sleep cycles used to be back then. They would go to sleep when the sun went down. They'd wake up in the middle of the night. They'd be up for like an hour or two, you know, do whatever, go, you know, light a candle, read a book, whatever. And then they'd go back to sleep and wake back up again. That's just a
That's
weird
really interesting.
thing
I
that
never
people
knew
used to
that.
do
Yeah, I
all the
never knew
time.
that either.
Well, you also have to keep in mind that people probably went to bed a lot earlier
Yeah.
because they didn't have electric lights.
Right,
And
exactly.
that actually having electric lights really does mess up our sleep schedules.
Exactly.
And that's why we go to bed way later and probably don't, you know, wake
Well, so
up.
yeah, especially as farmers too, you're gonna get up when the sun
As soon
the
as
sun
the
is
light's
up.
up, yeah.
So and that's part of your job is get the crops going before.
Right, and
know,
if they're up that early, by the time the sun goes down, they're tired. But then you know how it is. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? I'm gonna go read a book for that.
I feel like that when I have the early shift where I'm just
By
like I get home at
candlelight.
5 and I'm like I'm
going
done
to
at
bed.
3, but I'm like sitting there. I'm like I can't even make it to 5.
Should we give them their name, a celebrity name? Mabe. Mary Nabe.
A
Maybe-
ship name?
Mabe. Maybe,
Avery.
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 I like
I
that.
don't know. That's too
It sounds very
complicated.
femme.
I like Mabe.
Mabraham.
So then there's another one like Aba, or we're gonna get comments that's like stop
Mabraham.
shipping people.
Yeah, don't ship them.
Sorry guys.
Sorry, my bad. That was me again.
Well, we have a captain here. If we want to have a ship, we have a captain. So there you go.
Maybe it is.
So we see them, and then it goes into the opening, and the crops burning. We see it was like that's a Guy Fawkes mask. I'm like V's here, and it is kind of interesting that it was right around that time, and it was 1605, as we found out, 5th of November, 1605, and they are celebrating Guy Fawkes throughout the whole thing, which is a very good parallel to this whole story that's going on with him and having to, go against.
Yeah, I really liked that inclusion. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it mirrors what's happening really, really well. Because here's this one man, this one spy, who gets all the credit and infamy, as Richard pointed out, of trying to blow up Parliament in 1605. And, to the point where every November the 5th, ever since, people still celebrate it. It's, They still do it in London to this day. Probably not as much fervor as they did back in the day, but that's something that still goes on. It's something that has persisted for 400 years. It's really, really interesting. And to have Abe in this situation where all these lies and all these connections and all these kind of under the table, underhanded dealings are surrounding him. To just have him see what happens to men who try to lead double lives. And everything like that. So that's always going to be in the back of his mind this entire episode. Like, that's what's right in front of him.
Well, I think it's interesting to the different sides that we see of people celebrating the day and other people kind of, burning the symbol of Guy Fawkes.
Well, no, that's what
That's how
they
they
do.
celebrate.
That's how they celebrate. They celebrate that Guy Fawkes didn't succeed because he tried to blow up Parliament.
And that's why
Yeah.
they were throwing those
'Cause
vegetables.
And that's why they burn him in effigy every
Because
year.
he was the bad guy for trying to shut down the government.
But
Even though maybe he was onto something. Look who's spying on everyone now. The government. That's a different story, sorry.
But just even when we saw when he did go to the bonfire at one point where it was John Robson, the town kind of drunk, who turns out to have a lot of secrets himself. He goes up to Abe, where he's like, what was it? It's like, I know your friend, you're loyal to your friends, So I was actually a little confused when he said that, because then was he talking about? Because now he said loyalty to England, to the king in person, or does he actually kind of know that maybe he's working both sides? So it was a little
off-putting. Yeah, it's a very off-putting, just kind of one-liner to just kind of say to somebody and then walk away.
I wouldn't say that he knows, perhaps. I just think that in this time, you can't trust anybody. So maybe he's just covering his bases. And
What he brings up later on in the episode is that Sela, is in his mind responsible for what ended up happening. And so, you're loyal to your friends who, in his mind, have wronged him, who have caused him this hurt and everything like that. So that, but we didn't know that at the time.
No,
at the
so you're
time,
kind
it
of
was like,
watching
what is he
and-
talking about?
We'll definitely want to get to that a little bit later, but we get the introduction again of Robert Rogers in town, and he's watching a play, and Major John Andre comes in, and he's like, hey, we were cleaning up the Connecticut site, which, we saw at the very, very beginning that he picks up, the hat, the beret, and, wants to give it to Rogers because he knows that it's a sign for him. So this gets Rogers back into things, which
Gets
is
his blood boiling.
yeah,
Which is not
exactly.
what he
is
wants.
PO'd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, whoever this guy is that escaped is trying to get back at me. So now it's personal. It's
Yeah.
not just about making money or doing what I think he more is in it for the money than what he thinks is right or wrong. But I think that's how his loyalties lie as well. So
Some might say it's a vendetta.
So he goes and he's back in town, and he goes to meet with Hewlett, who I love that he just keeps horses in his
I was
office.
thinking the same thing. I was like, it must reek in there.
Well, and it's funny too because he has such a sense of dignity as he's sitting at his desk, and there are just these horses behind him. It's just kind of like there's something not right about this
Yeah,
picture.
it was a little juxtaposition between his attitude and what was actually there. Although I loved that scene where Rogers did come in. He totally cornered Hewlett, and Hewlett just seemed so vulnerable and like didn't know what to say or how to react to what he was coming at him with.
And I do think it's funny, too, how much they all respect him now. The famed, he had an introduction after, from John. And Richard Woodhull was in there, and he kind of got pushed out
he was
because...
dismissed.
What was that about? I was like,
Well, it's official
mean-
business from the Queen.
Well, and I don't... even though he's kind of helping on some of the investigation stuff...
He's not in the army, he's not part of the soldiers.
Well, it's just
guess.
kind of very telling because in terms of like the goings on of this small town, fall to the back burner when it comes to matters of war. And so that probably makes Richard, he probably feels belittled because it's like, this is a murder that took place in our town. This is what needs to be addressed. And Hewlett was like, look, this, sure, it's important, but the war is more important than the murder of one man.
And I love... I'm starting to like Hewlett because he's kind of quirky, and just even as soon as he comes in, he's like, oh, I'll host dinner for you. And that was actually one of my favorite lines was later. He's like, you know what, on second thought, I don't think I'll be hosting you to dinner. But it's just, it does go to show.
I hope you accept my apology.
Yeah. I really like Hewlett too. A lot of that I think is attributed to the actor because he's been in a lot of things. He was in Pacific Rim. He's in Torchwood for
that's
Doctor Who
right.
fans. But no, I like him as a character too. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit dreading when things come to a head and like people start dying in this series because I'm starting to really like a lot of these people.
It'll be interesting too, just if you look up the history, if how close they actually go to what the characters go through. Because I'm almost sad that I looked up some of what happens. And I'm like,
Spoilers.
I hope that doesn't happen, or if I know that does happen, that's boring. And
well, you'll just be really good at our predictions.
Spoiler alert.
yeah, exactly.
America wins. Booyah.
You didn't hear it
For
from
now.
him.
Well, yeah, for now. As far as we know.
Yeah, as far as so it's I really like that exchange. So then he's basically telling Hewlett, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this small town, and you're going to show, I want you to show me all the officers who are dead, because Hewlett's like, everybody we had there, the main people, they're all gone except Simcoe's missing. So he's like, well, that's kind of suspicious, and that kind of goes into his theory later about who killed Captain Joyce, as Megan actually predicted earlier.
I'm so disappointed. I was
That's
wrong.
okay. You were on the right thought process
Yeah.
of one of the coolest characters on the show, Robert Rogers.
Yeah.
That's true. I can take a little solace out of that. He and I are simpatico.
Oh.
Thanks, Eugene. If you guys watch Tangled, that's what it was a reference to.
I'm proud of you.
So they go into there, and he shows him, like, the barrels. And he's like, which one's this one? He goes, well, this is Captain Joyce. He said, but you don't have to worry about that. He wasn't there. He goes, no, something is up with this. I need to figure out this because he could be the key to why the other 19 died. So he's now on the hunt to find out who killed Captain Joyce. And it brings about...
Sorry, Captain Joyce.
You know what?
There's so much going on. So yeah, I'll apologize in advance. I'm not usually the lead, you guys. So and there's so many names.
There are a lot of
Everybody. That's why I keep looking down too. Well, and I hurt my neck earlier today as well. But so, you know, he's now kind of sniffing around town to see what's going on. So that kind of leads us back to the bonfire, the big party for Guy Fawkes. And he goes up, you know, he had met, you know, the Reverend really briefly. He's like, oh, you're telling me about your son, Abe. And he's, I didn't tell you about Abe. And
Yeah.
Roger's like, you know, I do my homework,
Yeah.
basically.
You
is
didn't
what he's
have
saying.
to.
I know everything. And that brings us back to the scene where they go into Anna's tavern, now Anna's, and he's interrogating them, basically, kind of seeing how they all react to his accusations of who might this be and who, you know, who did what. And
This brings up a key detail that we skipped over. I forgot about it too until
no,
just
please
now.
do.
Was Anna finding the letter?
Yes.
The hidden letter in the back of the drawer. And it
Yeah.
looked like it was written by a lover. And it was for Captain Joyce, right?
Captain Joyce, yeah, it sounds like there is an affair going on. And so Abe was like, okay, well, maybe this had something to do with his murder. You know, there's no name signed on this letter. So maybe the husband of whatever woman wrote this letter is the one who murdered Captain Joyce.
Because
Yeah.
he's still trying to clear his name.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I didn't do this. So he's trying to show, look, I didn't do it. So,
Yeah, because everybody just thinks, you know, Daddy got him off the hook.
Right, right.
Right.
And you don't want that.
No.
You know, stinking
Yeah,
that
it
town.
burned his crops down. Exactly. You know,
So that
Yeah.
so he would make them think that the town hates him.
exactly. So yeah, he's trying to clear his name because otherwise he's like, great, anything I do now, it's just going to get burned.
So yeah, he had talked to Anna, and she had found it, and she wanted to go over it with him. And you know, Abe is so nervous throughout this whole thing, and so it just kind of makes for a really interesting conversation. And I thought it was interesting. He brought up the letter. I didn't see him doing that. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because Anna even looked surprised.
Right, just seeing the expressions on Richard and Anna's face during this entire exchange, they looked like deers caught in the headlights. They're like,
They were not
oh my
prepared
gosh,
at
this
all."
is when everything like comes unraveled. And for Richard to not know this stuff that his son is, you know, telling
Yeah.
Captain, or I guess he's Major Rogers, right? Of the Queen's
Now
Guard?
he's Major Rogers.
But yeah, so you know, telling Major Rogers, you know, especially after they had reconciled and they thought, you know, no more secrets, you know, no more secrets between me and my son. It's like, no, this
Yeah.
is a secret.
That conversation.
And I'm having this told to me right now.
Yeah, because earlier on, you know, we kind of touched on it really quickly. As one of Joyce's favorite moments was when Abe was speaking to Richard, and it was like a really, you know, great moment
It
between
was-
the two of them, and
yeah.
saying, "I didn't kill Joyce."
Like he actually admitted it. Like you guys were saying, he hasn't directly said that he didn't do it until now.
Yeah.
And all his dad wanted to hear was that. Yeah.
So now he's sitting here going, "I thought we just
Yeah.
talked about this."
Like what is happening now?
Well, the conversation took a really quick turn.
Wow.
Roy, cue the rim shot, please. Thank you. Go ahead.
Are we gonna just like?
Yes,
is
I'm
there
puns
a sound
all day
effect
long.
that we need to do every time we make a turn pun?
Yes, there needs to be
Do
one.
we all like swivel in the
It's
chair
too
and turn
easy
around?
to do. Oh, save that for the battle. Save that for the battle when we win.
I like it, right? So yeah, so they do that, and then I kind of liked the change we saw a little bit in Rogers, because he's like, "Oh, so they're filling me in on this information. There's a girl." He's like, "Let's go down to the basement."
Well, that was it. That was the moment.
yeah.
He was thinking like, I don't know what to do. I really thought it was these people, but now they're making me change my mind. Okay,
I like to just
I'll go
think
with
that
it.
that's the sound of like the wheels.
Yeah, that's what I'm
turning.
thinking. Right. That's how I'm going to start thinking from
The
now
light
on.
bulb went off.
Okay.
But before that hilarious moment, Rogers gave Abe this coin, and on the back it said, "He who conceals himself is detected." And for a second, I was like, "Does he have an idea? Does he kind of have an idea that Abe is a spy for the rebels?" And
Well, he knows something's going on in the town.
he knows something is fishy, and that's when Abe got really nervous, and that's why I was thinking like, well, maybe he's trying to catch him off guard enough for him to see like. For
I
him,
completely
I-
agree with you.
Aye.
What I really liked about this scene too was just that, you know, as nervous as Abe was, you know, while this conversation is starting, there was a moment where it was like somebody flipped a switch and he was able to turn it around.
Yes, there it is again.
I'm rolling my eyes as I say it.
you got Abe and Turn in that sentence.
But he was able to turn it around. And honestly, people say that the best lies always have a nugget of truth in them. And that's what he's learning to do. He's learning how to lie, but still walk that line of, you know, truth to make it believable and to make him seem like he's still, you know, like he is the honorable man. Yeah, that everybody is taking him for. And he is an honorable man, but, you know, lies tend to pile up, and he's getting better and better at telling them.
And good for him, because he's getting put into these situations involuntarily, and he's just adapting to them regardless if he wants to or not. And he's getting better. He's progressing in terms
And
of...
I
Yeah.
think-
That's what it takes to be a good spy. You got to wing it.
Yeah,
Gotta
and
wing it.
I think in probably a few episodes' time, eventually he'll be a force to be reckoned with. Like, he's
Totally.
not just... Right now, he's really good at, you know, catching himself on the fly. Pretty soon, he's going to be the one leading conversations and steering people in the wrong direction.
Well, and I hope he gets to a point too where we think of him as our favorite character instead of the funny side ones, because you're like, man, he's just awesome. Right now, he's like, he does a cool thing, then he's like, I don't really like doing that.
He still has
Yeah.
a lot of time to grow, but you do see that progression of, you know, him with violence and the whole knife thing, how he didn't grab it at first, now he actually possesses one, and the fact that he took it out later on in this episode is just like a...
That's
Yeah, he
true.
keeps it on him now.
It did
Each time
progress.
he's getting closer.
Yeah, it's
Although
getting
He is going to
closer.
kill someone.
He did, and I think also, again, earlier with the conversation with his dad, he said, you know, I will never kill somebody, you know, until I'm ready for judgment, you know, day for him. And I
That's
think
tomorrow.
he meant that when he was going to die, obviously, but, you know, I think there'll be a time where he's gonna have to.
Eventually, his hand is going to be forced either, you know, just again with all these secrets piling up and all these, the deck being stacked against him in all directions.
There's
he's
gonna
have to. Somebody's going to give.
Somebody's gonna find out something, and he's gonna be the only one that's gonna be able to
So
stop
what's-
him. That
It
I have
way.
a
might be for
well,
the
I'll
life
save it
of
for
death
later.
of his family. I mean, who knows?
Just write it down.
I
Make
got
sure
it. I got
you
it.
save
I got it in my
later,
head.
Dylan.
I was gonna say it, but it's a prediction. Got to save it for predictions.
So
Go.
we'll go to our favorite part, which is when they take out Captain Joyce. They go back down
That
because
was
now Rogers is
disgusting.
all excited because he's like,
body.
my first idea was, you know, that Simcoe was the one that did it because he's the only one that benefited from the death, you know. Thought it was Anna, but, you know, it doesn't seem very likely, and she's there, and she has the letter now, and it's like, it makes even more sense that it was like a lover, and so they devise a plan that they're gonna, you know, first he kind of looks through all the wounds. He's like, have Captain Joyce tell us, and brings that out, and Abe throws
Pulls
up
the body
and, yeah,
out
pulls
of
the body
a barrel,
out of a barrel.
filled with pickled water so
And
that the
poor
body
Abe.
doesn't
That's
rot.
So gross. He's probably never seen...
No,
Because they're
a
going to
dead
ship the
body
bodies
before.
back to London. Was
Yeah.
the
for
idea.
proper burial, I'm sure. So through kind of looking at that and how he was stabbed, he's like, you know, one part was in the back, which means that he was comfortable enough with the person
To turn.
Turn his
turn his
back
back
on
To
it.
turn his back. See? All day long.
Take a drink as soon as we say
title of
turn.
this show before, but now it all makes sense.
They were like discussing the plot and the scripts, and they're like, wow, we say turn a lot.
I feel like we need to start keeping a tally of how many times
I
we
know.
say it.
That's a good
before
idea.
after
Bring it on
shows.
board. Just keep
It's
it tally.
not the pun jar, it's the turn jar.
The turn jar, and we have to give a quarter every time we say turn, so that'll make our sentence is a
And I
lot
get the
more
quarters, right?
interesting.
Laura gets
Roy
We'll
gets the
have
quarters.
a pizza party at the end. Well, we're going
One-
Sounds like a good idea.
Actually, that would probably buy a lot of pizza. All right, keep going. That's a lot of turn jokes.
So he figures that out. So he's like, all right, so we're going to have, I'm going to call. So he ends up calling Major Hewlett, or not Major Hewlett, excuse me. So he calls Hewlett to come to, where the drummer is and who's playing that song earlier, and tells him, I want you to play this song so we can find out which girl here is the one.
Yeah, they
that he's
scouted
kind of
them all
fooling
out,
around.
right? They scouted a
They
couple
had
of them.
narrowed it down based on like a couple
Who could hear
different
the
things.
drums from where they were played?
So they
Okay,
narrowed
so
it
two
down
girls.
to 2, and one of them was Anna, and then
Well, they
another
had it,
one was
yeah, they had it to
4.
4, and 2 of them.
Well, one was like 70
Doesn't work.
something,
He's
so
suffering
that
from
guy wouldn't be
palsy.
sleeping with her.
Yeah.
Then the other one had palsy, so that's not going to work.
So it's
it got down
Clara
to 2, but
or
one of them
Anna.
was Anna.
And you could kind of see Rogers was like, I don't know if I think that's up, if
like,
it's
okay,
her.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he's her type. So it's like, all right, well, let's find Clara and see if she, when the song goes on, if anything happens. So, and Hugh was like, you're really calling me over for this.
Yeah.
I got horses to feed in my office. I don't want to deal with
got
this
poop
kind
to
of stuff.
scoop.
Yeah.
He did say all of those things.
Basically, I could see it in his eyes. That's what was going on. So they have Clayton, the drummer. And they ask him that why are you playing these songs? And he's just like, Joyce said to do it, so I was doing it when he said to, and just whenever, it was all hours of the night, and he thought it helped morale as well with the group. And so he starts playing it. Clara's not doing anything, but we see good old John Robinson kind of
the town drunk.
Yeah, the town
Shucking the
drunk.
oysters.
Yeah, the song goes on. Everybody else is still dancing around, drinking, talking. And he kind of looks up. And the only one that notices out of that group, it seemed like, was Abe.
And looks
Yeah.
nervous about it.
Yeah. I love how
He's like, wait, Joyce is dead.
I
Captain
love
Joyce.
how the
that is.
reason I love how what gave it away for me was his shuck, because Rogers was saying that the stab wound in Joyce's back was small, like an envelope opener, or small, like a dagger for small hands or something. But then when I saw the town drunk using that shuck, I was like, it was him. And then you're like, no, he looked up. That he's suspicious.
It was the drunk in the field with the oyster
With
shucking
the
knife.
oyster shuck.
So I loved this. Like I said, I love certain moments of Abe, and I hope in upcoming episodes I'm going to be like, he is the coolest, because he goes right up to John. He's like, I know it was you. Meet me where you killed Captain Joyce.
Yeah.
And
Which, if I was the guy that killed someone, I would be like, no. No. Not
Going back
because
to
he
the
didn't.
scene of the crime.
He didn't
yeah,
say,
no.
meet me where you killed Captain Joyce over by that tree over there. He said, meet me where you killed him. So obviously, if he shows up, he killed him because he knows where it was,
But
right?
to be fair, he's drunk.
and I feel like back
He's
then,
always drunk.
I feel like then men had, those guys
There's a
had more of a
code,
code.
yeah.
Exactly. And he was
Bro
like,
code.
he's like, you found me out, but I'm going to
Gentleman's
take
code.
you
The
down.
gentleman's
yeah,
code.
There was a gentleman's
Hey, there
code.
still is. You guys just don't know about it.
Oh, enlighten us.
No.
Please.
That's for
It's the
another
gentleman's code.
podcast. But so he ends
Gentleman
up,
never tells.
Exactly.
so Abe goes there, and then I feel like we kind of knew Abe had to have brought somebody. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Rogers or just, he had to have backup.
Right.
And it's so dark you can't even see in that area. So he comes there, and then John gets there. And I feel like with most, quote unquote bad guys, they like to tell their story. So John,
They're prideful people.
pretty much, yeah.
You sly dog. You had me monologuing.
Exactly. So he has them. He admits to being the one. Eventually, once he sees, I've got this letter, as you wrote as a girl.
How'd you get that? That's what he said. Sorry.
He's
Well,
like,
his
that wasn't
face
top secret. I
fell.
just
Yeah.
loved Captain Joyce.
We were having an
secret love
affair.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, wait, he was having an affair with John Robinson?
Yes. Let's all just
I was like, is
go
this
with
what
that.
it's about?
It's a whole different story now. A whole different
Yeah.
show. So, he's like, so if we compare the writing, we're going to find out that it was you who did this and you're the one who ended up killing him. And I thought it was interesting that that wasn't part of the deal originally, and then he starts blaming Abe and Sheila.
Sela.
Sela, excuse me. Sheila's a girl. Mal.
Sela sounds feminine as well.
It does, but
Sela.
It's not.
So he's like, it's kind of your fault. You brought it up. He's a hard guy to handle. And, he was talking to me, and I couldn't help it. And even as he's talking to Abe, he brings out the knife.
Yeah.
So this guy's not very stable. That's what it all came down to. I'm sure Captain Joyce talked to him. And it's just like, I'm over this guy, and starts to turn around to walk away from him.
That
and
makes sense.
see what you did? Turn. I did. Mark it down. I hope someone's keeping track of this.
Somebody's going to write, please stop keeping
Please
track.
stop keeping track of the turn funds. But well, you also have to keep in mind that Joyce was just court-martialed. He was going to be sent back to London. And if you look back at the first episode, it's like that brings like a whole new meaning to his disappointment and his shame and why he looked so pathetic, when he was court-martialed. It wasn't necessarily because his name was besmirched. It was because he's leaving the one he has to leave the one he loves behind.
But I think, I agree. And, but I don't think John really saw it that way.
No.
Obviously. So they're almost, they start to go at each other. And, well, before that, he's like, by the way, the drummer Clayton, he thinks you're the one that did all of this. And I brought him with me. Clayton, get in here. Because apparently Clayton didn't hear the rest of the conversation. But
Which was very weird.
Robert Rogers did. So he
He's
must
just
have
a
been
drummer.
further
He's
back.
probably just like, doo-doo.
Like the whole time that conversation took place, there was a guy hiding behind a tree, and there was a guy hiding in the bushes.
I think that says a lot, though, about the nature of like the
There are
conversation.
eyes everywhere.
There are eyes and ears everywhere, even when even at the higher up stage, and the Confederate or. Oh my gosh, I called them
Whoa.
Confederates.
This is a different
even
war.
the Patriots, even the Patriots are
Now this
talking
is a
about how
football
there's
team.
a really, really high up, there's a mole, really high up in their ranks, higher than any of them right now. And
Yeah.
so they're like, how high up does this go? We have to find out.
To
And
the top.
I really like that, with the show like this too, you can see how, again, the difference between what we think of spies now compared to back then, where they're just hiding behind a tree. And you wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, that's not complicated, but, it
That's
worked
not
for
James
them.
Bondy
Especially
enough.
with all the technology.
So Clayton comes out. He's about to go attack Abe, and all of a sudden, Robert Rogers comes to the rescue, kills him. He's like, "You didn't tell me there were going to be two of them." Abe's like, "What do you think I know these things?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he all of a sudden is like, "Well, we found the killer of Joyce." And Abe's like, "Wait a minute, it's this guy. Didn't you hear any of this?" And I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
Because now he's just Robert Rogers is so slick in everything he does, and it's kind of all backhanded, like behind the scenes stuff. And he's like, no, I've got somebody now that like he knows I can kill him. He knows I know what he did. So if I don't kill him, somebody else is going to. He's going to be my spy. And Woodhull, if you find that he's leaving, you're going to tell me. So now he is. Now he's a double.
He's a double agent.
spy.
He's a double agent.
Abe. He's getting himself into so many random, involuntary things.
Yeah, he's definitely in a bind now.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. And then we go, I want to hear what you guys think as well. We love hearing comments. We haven't gotten anything because it's a newer show for iTunes and YouTube. But how was that moment for you guys as well? And definitely, we only had 2 comments on YouTube. Sure, shout out to the 2 people who wrote to us on YouTube. We definitely like hearing from you guys, especially being a new show. We want to hear what you have to say. We do this for free. We're fans as well, and hopefully with the new show, we become really big fans. And
Yeah,
so please write us. Yeah,
your comments and theories or whatever will help us shape ours and
we'll
bring
do
things
shout
to
outs
light for us, and we'll do shout outs.
Yeah, and definitely talk about everything that one. Like I said, we hadn't had anything on iTunes yet, and we really do appreciate it. Shows our bosses how we're doing, and it keeps us doing shows here. So please do iTunes and YouTube.
Yay.
So the next Devil Spy, and we'll kind of touch about this really quickly because it was 2 quick scenes, was, Major John Andre and his little theater
Philomena.
friend, Philomena. Which at first, when he's watching her and they kind of make eye contact, you're like, get it.
All
I
right.
developed
We
a
know
new
what's
respect
happening.
for John Andre in this episode.
Exactly. We
He's
didn't see him
smooth.
too often.
Yeah.
He's really smooth.
All he had to do was make eye contact. Hey. And that's it.
And we had talked about a little bit in the first episode that females make the best spies because all these guys don't think they're able to do anything. I mean, you could even see when Anna was, saying something to Robert Rogers, and she was like, why she went to Abe first. And he's like, I think on the one hand he was thinking, well, she's a woman. She's just going to go to the first guy she
Yeah.
likes.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to think it through. That's what I
And
caught
he's like,
from
"Ah,
it.
He
it's
didn't put
okay,
too
I
much
was in
thought
love
into
with him."
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
He was
neither
like,
did she. so.
She's a woman. It's all right. So he sleeps with Philomena, and then gets her to be a spy. And I think, Dylan, you made a very interesting point at the end when he kind of convinces her to do it, that he's fully clothed and she's completely naked.
Yeah.
And it's very like, who has the power in this situation? And definitely kind of a vulnerability, but yet he's going to use her for stuff. So it's this new thing.
Well,
I have
go.
a different idea.
Yeah, okay.
They always keep talking about their friends that they have in other cities. Maybe she's already part of the spy team. Maybe she's a spy. Because you hear him she was like, oh, what do you do? Oh, how many men do you control?
So you think she's already
I think she's a spy already. And she's
her-
getting the information by sleeping with him. Because then he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm so in charge of all these guys. I gather all the intelligence. I'm so awesome. And she's just going,
And her nakedness is her cover-up.
Right. She's like, oh, look, I'm naked and so vulnerable.
That's-
Tell me everything.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that with him dressed, in his military uniform and her completely dressed down, like those are the assets that they are using in this war, for lack of a better term. those are what they are using to fight their own battles. And so I thought that was very
Oh,
interesting.
that's true.
Okay, so you guys all think that she's already a spy for the rebels, quote unquote.
Yeah, because I think if she were inexperienced in that, or if she were really, really excited, she would show that, as someone who's like, oh my God, he thinks I'm good enough for this. I'm going to do this. But to me, she just seemed kind of like, all right.
Well,
I-
and
I got this.
It'd be very interesting if that's how the information for the Patriots, if that's how it was being leaked, is through somebody like her, or maybe even her.
A whole ring of hers.
And since we don't have that much time to talk about it, sorry, because we talked about other stuff as well, let's get really quickly to Simcoe with...
I called it last week. What did I say? I said Simcoe's going to get away. He's going to know everyone's names, and now it's going to be trouble for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, he was
Boom.
cast as a regular.
Yeah.
It just seems too early to get rid of the creepy guy. He has to cause more trouble.
I told you they should have just killed him.
They
Should have just killed
They
him.
really should
Shoulda,
have.
woulda,
And
coulda.
and it was interesting too that Abe found out that they hadn't killed him.
Yeah.
That he was missing.
And
So
the whole reason that they're doing this is totally moot now because he's still alive.
and now Simcoe has more information on.
He knows the two names
Ben
of
and Caleb.
his
Duh.
best friends.
They are not very good at what they
No.
were doing.
No, and it was kind of interesting because, even Simcoe at the end when they were caught, he's like, Ben was actually really great to me, and it was at first. I mean, he was trying to do the right thing, like, they
He was trying to adhere to this code.
Yeah, there was the first, scene where they're fixing his leg, and that was a little cringeworthy because we don't do that
No, they
kind of medical procedures anymore.
Although that was great. More rum, please.
They do now. I mean, they still do that. They just put you under now, and
Yeah, that's
no
what I
one
mean,
watches
though.
it. It's not as bloody.
It wasn't as bloody for that, but he puts him back together, so to speak, and then he's having dinner with him and trying to talk, and that's when I said, my favorite moment was Caleb when he punches him, and they're like, obviously the being nice isn't working, so then Ben kind of becomes on board to, well, let's use the bad cop method, and of course as soon as they're using that, General
comes
Scott
Scott.
comes in, and he seems a little stiff.
Well, all the officers were, back in the day, fighting
code.
tactics. They had a code, like, don't hurt other officers, because they didn't want to get hurt and captured and tortured.
Yeah, you set the precedent for that sort of thing. It's like, well, that's what's going
Well,
to happen
even now
to
we
you.
still have laws with that, and whether or not countries abide by it is
They
a
don't.
hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's certain people that believe in it and some that don't, and maybe it's a case by case basis because I feel like, at least with me in this show, I'm like, yeah, torture Simcoe. maybe it's a TV show, and I'm just, it's like,
What's
oh, it doesn't
wrong
matter.
with you?
I can't be the only one that wanted him to get smacked around.
Well,
a
I
little bit.
wanted him dead, so
I
was
wanted him
hoping
dead.
that-
torture is mean.
I was really
Just kill him.
disappointed when they captured him at the end of the last episode. I was like, you're leaving him alive. This isn't going to end well for anybody.
But do you guys think they're going to send him right back to where he was now that they kind of messed up his treatment, or do you think he'll still kind of go through a trial?
Oh no.
I think he'll go back to
Or-
where
Oh,
he was.
they're
Doesn't
gonna
right back.
let him go.
Yeah.
He's gonna roll right back into town.
Because now he's not that high in the ranks like oh my gosh, Talwaj. Was that what his name
Oh,
was?
Talmadge.
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 Benjamin.
Talwaj.
Talmadge.
So ugly.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he says he's not that high in the ranks, but I think he's respected enough or wanted enough for them to just take him back.
Mm-hmm. And then, Ben's in trouble now, too. But it's interesting, they didn't say anything about Caleb being in
Yeah,
trouble. I
he's
don't know
not-
if he's not because
Because
he's
he's
not,
not
like
the-
official officer, but
Right.
he still was seen torturing a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised at
Well,
that.
I think the
but
officer has to take all responsibility.
all the
or
responsibility
something.
for what's going on there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Let's go with Major Chance because he had one earlier.
Well, I already kind of gave it away. My prediction was that the girl was going
okay,
to be
that's it.
the spy. I think she's the spy. So.
I
She's
agree
already a
with you.
rebel spy, and now
Yeah.
she's a double spy.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. For me, and I kind of thought that scene with Rogers giving the coin to Abe was a little foreshadowing. That quote saying, "He who conceals himself is detected." I feel like with everything that Rogers has said about spies in front of Abe, that kind of just makes me feel like later on in the episode he's going to find out about Abe. And the fact that Rogers said to John Robson that spies are the lowest of the low, essentially, that once he does find out about Abe, there's going to be lots of conflict, considering that now Abe is his watch for John, and Abe is also Richard's son. It's like all this drama.
Drama.
Lots of drama.
Miss Salinas, what do you think?
I think that the whoever is leaking the information for these guys, he's what's going to allow Simcoe to escape. That's my prediction.
And I said this last week, but I also, as seeing from the previews, I think that Abe is going to go work for his dad, and then it's going to help him to bring information back and forth to New York.
I have one more prediction.
Oh.
And this is the next step of Abe's evolution to killing someone. He first didn't want the knife. Then he grabbed the knife. Now he pulled out the knife. The next one, he's going to go to kill someone, but someone's going to kill him for him. That's going to be one more step closer.
Well, that happened this episode.
No, well, he didn't have to, go for
So you
it.
think he's going to be closer, like maybe he nicks
Like-
the person?
Or
Yeah.
accidental.
Oh, accidental, maybe.
Possibly.
There you go. Well, thanks you guys so much for tuning in to episode 2 of Turn. Dylan Chance, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dylan Chance, or you can find me here later tonight on Cosmos.
Captain Joyce.
You can find me on Twitter at JAJOURI and on the Tuesday night Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast with these lovely ladies.
And Lieutenant Salinas.
You can find me on Twitter at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin.
And you can find me, Kristen Carroll 13 on Twitter. And yes, we're on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then we'll be here next week for Turn. So thanks you guys for tuning in, and definitely give us your comments. Have a good night.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.